Hello everyone, I am going to solve another GCSE higher tier paper today on Unit 3. This paper is on as part of a new GCSE, is originally from May 2017 and is a calculator with calculator paper. So I'm going to start this paper, going through the next page. The question is, the number of goals scored in each match of a competition was recorded. So we have number of goals scored in a match 1. We have 9 matches. Frequency means number of the occurrences of a specific event. And the number 2 scored is 8 matches, 6 matches, and that goes on. Calculate the mean number of goals per match. So calculate the mean number of goals per match. So generally what we want to do with these cases is that we would extend this table in here. And as I said, we need to have a clear view and vision of what frequency is. So if we want to find out total number of goals, we have 1 goal in 9 matches. So what would be the total goal in that? Would be 1 times 9. We have 2 goals in 8 matches. So 8 times 2 would be 16. So this is, if I just call it total goals. And we have 3 goals in 6 matches, so 3 times 6 is 18, and 4 goals in 3 matches would be total 12, 5 in 4 matches, this would be 20. So the total number of goals in all matches is 9 plus 16 plus 18 plus 20 plus 12 plus 20, which would be 25, 55, 75. Then it says calculate the mean number of goals per match. So we need to find out what is the total number of matches in here. So this frequency in here, if we add these together in here, it gives us the total number of matches. So 9 plus 8 is 17, plus 6 is 23, plus 7 is 30. So the mean value would be 75 divided by 30, which is 2.5. So the answer for this question is 2.5. Next question, it says a box contains 560 grams of cornflakes. A box on a special offer contains an extra 35% of cornflakes. How many grams of cornflakes are in the special offer box? So we have extra 35% on top of 560. So one method of solving this is that we have different methods in here to do. One method of solving this is that we could say that 1% of 560 is 5.6. So what is 35%? 35% would be 5.6 times 35. So if I do this 5.6 times 35, we get 196. And then I need to add that 35 to the original value, so the 560 plus 196, and this would be 6, 5, and 756. So this would be one way of doing this. Another way is that 35% is 0.35 times of whatever the value is, 560, which this still gives us 196. And then you again do 196 plus 560, which is the original value, which you get 756. The final method is that if you want to add 35% to a specific number, which is 560 in this case, we can just directly say 560 times 1.35, and that would be 756. In this case, this is the extra 35%, and this 1 represents the original value of the 560. So really doing all of that in one operation. So the answer in here is 556. So question 3, solve 4 times x minus 5 equals 48. One of not problems, but generally if you want to make it much more simpler, it's better to avoid expanding this section, because I have seen students that would just expand whatever they see originally just to solve it. You can still solve it if you expand it, but generally it is easier to avoid expanding. You will be dealing with smaller operations, smaller numbers. So we have 4 times x minus 5 in bracket equals 48. To get this x minus 5, we need to divide by 4 both sides. So divide by 4 both sides, that would give us x minus 5 equals 48 divided by 4 is 12. And then I need to add 5, because I need in here to get just my value of x remaining. So that would be x equals 12 plus 5, which would be 17. So if you did want to expand, that would be 4x minus 20 equals 48. Then you need to add 20, 4x equals 68. Divide by 4, x equals 17. You slightly have a bit larger numbers compared to what we did in the left hand side. So generally it you can do either way, but I would prefer the first method. So the answer in here is 17. Question number 4. Jill bought 3 oranges at x pence each and 4 melons at 2x pence each. Write down an expression for the total cost in terms of x. So if I just show oranges with O, which basically we have 3 of them. So we have 3 oranges at x price, so that would be 3x. And then we have 4 melons at 2x price, so that would be plus 4 melons, and what is the price is 2x. So if I simplify all of this, this would be 8x plus 3x would be basically 11x. Now, part B, she got 1.04 change from £5. Write down an equation in terms of x. So we are going to say that, okay, she needs to pay 11x because that is the total cost. She gave £5 and got 1.05 back. So we could say that 5 minus 1.04 equals 11x, because that is what was the cost. And if we simplify this a bit more, we can say that it is 3.96 equals 11x. Now, part C, solve the equation to find the value of x. So from here, we need to divide both sides to 11. So this would be 3.96 over 11 equals x. So 3.96 divided by 11, that is 0.36. So x from here would be 0.36. Okay, we move to the next question. Draw graph of y equals 4x minus 3. So y equals 4x minus 3. So just to have a quick review, this is a gradient of or slope of the line, and this is basically this minus 3 altogether. It is a y-intercept. to draw a line which is in the form of y equals mx plus c, we only need to have 2 points. So all we need to do in here is to have a table for x and y. We give any value for x, and that is we get a number for y, because we need to put to find two points that they satisfy this equation. So I can give any number for x. I start with 0. If I put 0 in this equation in here, I will get y equals -3, which basically this is the meaning of y-intersect, means x equals 0. And as you can see, that's -3. And if I put x equal, for example, 2, if I put x equal 2, 2 times 4 is 8, -3 is 5, so that would be our second point. So 0 and -3 is this point here, 2 and 5, so we come up in here, somewhere around here, that is 2 and 5. So to draw this line, we just need to draw a line that passes through these 2 points. So the graph of y equals 4x minus 3 crosses the line y equals 5 at point P, y equals 5. So where is y equals 5? Y equals 5 is a line that every point on that line has a y equals 5. So this is basically y equals 5. Write down the coordinates of P. So we know that y equals 5 is at the, as we can just basically, we had a point in here as we chose, it was 2 and 5. So basically the coordinates would be 2 and 5. But just in case that we didn't have the point on the table, what we want to say is that y equals 4x minus 3. But we know that for this point, y equals 5. So we are going to say 5 equals 4x minus 3. Add 3 to both sides would be 8 equals 4x. Divide by 4, 2 equals x. So you can start from 5 and go to 2. So for the intersection between a line y equals 5 and line y equals 4x minus 3 would be 2 and 5. Okay. Question 6. Calculate the circumference of a circle with diameter 2. So circumference is, if we show it by P, is for a circle is pi d. So diameter is 2, so this would be pi times 2. So if we put this in the calculator, so this would be 2 times pi, which is 6.28 in 2 decimal places, rounding off it to 2 decimal place. So that is 6.28. Now, next part of the question, hence calculate the perimeter of the window below, which is made up of semicircle and a rectangle. So when we say perimeter, this is all about around here. So if I look at here, my half a circle here, I have a half a circle. This is the half a circle. Okay. I am just going to clear that section. So that half a circle, the length of that would be, because it's half of circle and circumference is or the whole circle, so for that would be 6.28 divided by 2 from part A of this question. So which is basically 3.14. As you can see, the diameter of this is 2, which is this, it would create a same circle as we had in part A, a circle of diameter 2. So we just need to get the answer from part A and half it to find out this section. Now, the other parts are this section, this line, and this line. So we have 3 and 3 and 2. So all we need to do is 3 plus 3 plus 2 plus 3.14, which would be equal to 3 and 3 is 8, and that would be 11.14, and this would be meter. Yes, I had a small mistake in here. This is a circumference, so the unit in here would not be meter squared, it would be just a meter there. So the unit for both of these sections of these questions is just a meter. Okay, we go to the next question. A salesman recorded the average temperature in degrees C and his ice cream sales pounds during 8 weeks of the summer. So we have average temperature and we have sales in a pound. So for 13 degrees C, 238, and it just goes up, as we can see. So the first 3 points have already been plotted. Use the data to complete the scattered graph. So as you can see in here, for 13, it's already, we have the value 238. For 12, we already have 206. For 14, we have 264. For 16, we have 330. So I need to go up in here, go up to on 16. 330 is somewhere around. I need to basically, that is 10. That is another 10, that is another 10. So basically each 5 of them is 110. So I need to go in here, somewhere in here. If I go up in 16, so this would be my point. Then on week 5 again is 14, but this time the point is 272. So 272, we just need to consider that each 5 of them, 5 of these grids are representing 10. So that's very important to when we look at this sort of scatter graphs. So I'm going to on 14, and 272 would be 250. I need to go another 5 to be 260, another 5, 270, then another 1, 272, because each 1 represents 2. So I need to, from here on 14, yep, I need to go 5 and 5 and 1 more, so that is 272. Okay. So I would have put it, I think the direction is a bit wrong. I need to put that into 14. Sorry, that was okay. So we look at 14. So I just put it again. So 5 and 5 and 1 more, which is 11. So that would be the point. And then we go to 18, 398, which is 1 grid below 400 for 18. So 18 is in here, so we have 5 in here, so 1 grid below 400, that is that. And then we go to number 17, which is 364. So if I look at here, this is 350. I need to come about 10 grids to this side. So then from here, I need to go 5 up, another 2 up. So this would be 364. And again in 18, 392. So this would be basically 4 grids less than under 400. Okay, so as I mentioned, you need to exactly find out what is the scale of each one of these grids when you are looking at pointing these this sort of data. Question B, draw a line of best fit. So when we draw the line of best fit, we are trying to make sure that we almost have half of the points in one side of the line and half of the points in the other side of the line. So if I look at this, drawing the line of best fit, it would be something like this. So you need to adjust your ruler in the place and find out and adjust it in a way that you have almost half of the points in one side and half of the points in the other side, and you are following the trend on each point. Now, part C, in week 9, the average temperature is 15. So week 9 is somewhere outside this. So week 9 is here, and average temperature is 15. Use the graph to estimate the sales for week 9. So we come to number 15, which is basically this point in here. So in this point we go up. Again, you need to use your ruler, and then we go in this direction. We have one grid over 300. Therefore, the value that we should read is 302. So this is the estimate value of the prediction of the sales in week 9. So that would be 302 pounds. What type of correlation does your graph show? You could basically say it is positive correlation, or you could say it's a proportional correlation, basically as the temperature goes up, the sales also goes up. So as temperature is higher, goes higher, the sales are also higher. The number of sales is also, the amount of sales also increases. Okay, so we move to next question. This question is find the sides of angle A and angle B. Angle A and basically in here, that is 78. We can say that this is alternate angles, or in a way we could say that this is a corresponding angle here is 78. This is opposite angle here, that is also equal, so that would be 78. So this is equal to this, and that is equal to that. So that number for the first one is 78, and for the second one it is corresponding angles in here, it's 87, and that would be 87 too from there. So that is just the corresponding angle, that would be 87. Now going to the next question. An equilateral triangle and a regular pentagon are joined together as shown in the diagram. Calculate the size of angle H. So we can find out what is the internal angle of a regular pentagon. If you forgot the formulas in this area, all we need to do is to find out, for example, by adjusting lines, how many triangles can we make inside this regular pentagon. And as you can see, we can make three triangles. So the total angles inside this this regular pentagon, which is the total angles of those three triangles, is 3 times 180, because the total angles of each triangle is 180. So if we divide that to 5, which is the number of angles of this regular pentagon, that would give us each angle of that regular pentagon. So it would be 540 divided by 5, and that is 108. So what we are basically saying is that each one of these angles in here, is 108 degrees. Now, then we have an equilateral triangle. Equilateral triangle means that each angle is 60. So that is equilateral triangle. And we also know that this is 180. So To find out this h, the whole angle around a point is 360. That's a whole circle, 360. So h would be equal to 360 minus 108 minus 60, which is 360 minus 168, and that would be 192. So the final answer in here is 192. So this has to be in h, in the outside has to be 192 to make 360, including the 60 in the triangle and 108 in the regular pentagon. Okay, we go to the next question. The vertices A, 0 and 8 and B, minus 4 and 4 and C, 2 and minus 2 of a right angle triangle are shown. So we have A and B, A in here, B, and we have C. Write down the coordinate of midpoint of the line joining A to C. So if I join this A to C, what is the coordinates of the midpoint? So a coordinate of midpoint, so if I say x of midpoint is x of A plus x of C divided by 2, y of midpoint is y of A plus y of C divided by 2. In other words, if we want to find out the coordinates of a midpoint between 2 points, we can just average the x's, that would be x of midpoint, average the y's, and that would be the y of the midpoint. So if I replace the values in here, for xa, for A, x is 0, for C, x is 2, 2 plus 0 divided by 2 is 1. And then I have ya is 8, yc is minus 2. So I basically have A 8 minus 2 divided by 2, which is 3. So basically I get to the point of the point that I get is 1 and 3. Just to have a quick check, we see that this point 1, this is a point 1 and 3, which is almost middle of this line, as we can see in the graph, just to have a visual test in our solution. So the answer in here would be 1 and 3. Okay, part B, a force point D is plotted so that ABCD forms a rectangle. Explain why coordinates of D must be 6 and 2. So what we are saying as 6.2 is this point, and this is point D. Why this ABCD is a rectangle? Should be a rectangle. There are different ways to do this, but I personally think that the easiest and more straightforward point is that we can just easily prove that these angles in here are 90 degrees. To find out these, to prove that, we need to find out the gradient of this line, gradient of that, and gradient of that. And then we would say that, we would show that if you like, the time of gradients of two lines becomes -1. We know that if two gradients, the time become -1, we can say that those two lines are perpendicular or 90 degrees. And we also know that the gradient of a line is delta y over delta x, or change in y over change in x. So for AB, if I look at AB, the gradient would be AB change in y is 4 in 8 minus 4, and 0 minus -4 would be 4, so this would be 4 again, so change in x, so this would be 1. For DC, if I call CD, Again, this time is 6 and 2, and we know that C is 2 and minus 2. So change in y is 2 minus minus 1, which would be 4. Change in x would be 6 minus 2, which would be 4, which is 1. So as we were expecting, AB and CD are parallel because they have the same gradient. If I look at the gradient of AD, change in y in here, AD is A is 0 and 8. So change in y would be 8 minus 2, which is 6. And then change in x is 0 minus 6, which is minus 6. So this would be minus 1. And if I look at gradient of BC, B is minus 4 and 4. So change of y would be 4 minus minus 2, which is 6 again, divided by minus 4 minus 2, which is minus 6 again. So that would be minus 1. Again, AD is parallel to BC. The other thing is that you see this this gradient times that is basically 1 times minus 1 is minus 1. We know that a gradient times another gradient equal minus 1 means that that line L1 is perpendicular to line L2. So we can say that AB is perpendicular to AD. So AB in here, this is perpendicular to AD. So we have a 90-degree angle in here. We can also show that AD is perpendicular to DC. AD and DC, so this times that is also minus 1. So this means that this is also 90 degree here. And we can also show that CD is perpendicular to BC, CD and BC. So this times that is also again minus 1. So that means that this is also 90 degrees. And we already know that that is 90 degrees because that is already given in the question. It says that that's a right angle triangle. So we have a shape with all 90-degree angles, and that is the definition of rectangle. So that 6.2 is the right point to make a triangle ABCD. Okay, if we go to the next question. Calculate the area of a circle with diameter 8 centimeter. So area of a circle is pi r squared. So because we have a diameter, we need to find out the radius. If you want to, I think that's easier to find the radius. So r equals diameter divided by 2. So radius is half a diameter. So this would be 8 divided by 2 would be 4 centimeter. That's a radius. So this would be pi times 4 squared. Now if we basically find out this, and again I'm going to do it in 2 decimal places. So this would be 4 times 4, which is 16, times pi, which would be 50 point, if I round it up, 50.27. So this would be 50.27 centimeter squared. So 50.27. Now, if I go to the next one, PQRSTU is regular hexagon. QUV is a straight line. Show that angle Y equals 150. Give reasons for each step of your work. As we did just in a few questions back, we can find out for this regular pentagon, we can have 4 triangles inside this regular pentagon. So the total angles inside this regular pentagon would be 4 times 180. Because each triangle is 180 total, has a 180 as a total of angles. And how many angles this pentagon has is 6. So that divided by 6, So this would be 120 degrees. So basically we showed that through this, we showed that each one of this is 120. So because it says give reasons for each step of your work, you can put the text in here. So the total angle inside the regular pentagon, regular hexagon, and divided by 6, this would be each angle inside. So you can put some clarification on showing the reasons what you are doing. So this total angle in here is 120. Now, the other part that we want to look at in here is that this also, that P in here is 120. So what we want to say is that we want to say in this triangle PQU is isosceles. And the reason it's isosceles because PQ equals PU. So if that is the case, so we could say that this angle equals to this angle. So I'm going to call this 1, that angle would be U1. And the other one, if I call it 1 again, that would be Q1. So I'm going to say that angle P plus angle U1 plus angle Q1 equals 180, because that is within the triangle PQU. Because this is isosceles, we know that this angle equals to that angle. So, and we know that angle P is 120. So therefore, angle U1 would be equal to 180 minus 120 divided by 2. So that would be 60 divided by 2, which is 30. So this one in here would be equal to 30. So if that is equal to 30, we know that the total of this angle here is the total of that angle here is 180. And if that is 30, the y in here would be 180 minus 30, which would be 150. So we are showing that angle y equals 150. Okay, going to the next question. Question 13. The area of a right angle triangle PQR is 24 meters squared. Calculate the lengths of PR. Lengths of PR. Show all your working. Okay, so the area of a right angle triangle is height times base divided by 2 as always, but in this case height and base are the sides of a right angle triangle. So we can say that 24 equals PQ times QR divided by 2. And we know that PQ equals 8, so that would be 8 times QR divided by 2. Time both sides by 2 would be 48 equals 8 QR. Divide by 8 would be 6 equals QR. So in this way, we can find out the QR equals to 6. Now we can use a Pythagoras to find out what is PR. So PR is square root of 8 squared plus 6 squared. So basically PR squared equals 8 squared plus 6 squared. I just squared root both sides. So this is the formula we can get for this. So this 8 squared is 64 and 3600. Square root of 100 is 10. So the answer for this question would be 10. Question 14, write 96 as a product of prime factors. Give your answer in index notation. So it's a good question, and it's a generally fundamental topic to know. So when we divide by prime factors are 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and so on. So we normally start with the smallest one, and if we couldn't do, for the smallest one is 2, so if we couldn't divide by 2, we divide by 3. If we couldn't, then divide by 5, so and so on. So this is divisible by 2, so by 2 is 48. This is again by 2 is 24. Again by 2 is 8. By 2 is 12, which is not 8. Again by 2 is 6, and by 2 is 3. So we can say that 96 is equal to 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3, which is 5 2's. So this would be 2 to the power of 5 times 3. And we write it in an index notation. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is same as saying 2 times 2 to the power of 5. Hence find the highest common factor of 96 and 72. Highest common factor of 96 and 72. So to do this, I need to do the prime factors for 72 as well. So I will find this would be, again, divided by 2 is 36, divided by 2 is 18, divided by 2 is 9, divided by 3 is 3. So 72 equals 2 to the power of 3 times 3 to the power of 2. So generally, you can use different methods in here, but one of the ideas is that we could say that we have two numbers in here. One number is 72 and the other number is 96. They share some of the factors that we can put in this section, and they basically don't share some of the factors that we can put in a part that they don't share. If I look at 2 to the power of 5 and times 3 and 2 to the power of 3 times 3 to the power of 2, what they share is 3 2's and 1 3. So just to give you basically to look at it in more details, if you look at this, this is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. This is 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. So if you look at, there's 3 2's and 3 2's that we can say that they're sharing, and 1 3 and 1 3 that they're sharing. So I can write 2 in here, and 2 and 2 and 3, the part that they are sharing. For 72, there's a 3 that 72 is not sharing with 96, so this 3 goes in here, and for 96 there's a 2 and 2 that is not shared. After writing this, we can say that timing the parts that they are sharing, that would give us the highest common factor. So the highest common factor in here would be equal to 2 times 2 times 2 times 3, which is 8 times 3, which is 24. Just in case the question was slightly different, if you want to find out lowest common multiple would be timing everything that we see in here. So lowest common multiple here would be 3 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 2 times 2. So as you can see, for lowest common multiple, we would just repeat this common section just once. So this is the first part, this is the common section, and that is the last part. So we just time everything, and that would be the lowest common multiple. So answer for this question is 24, which is highest common factor. The first 4 terms of a sequence are 3, 8, 13, and 18. Write down the nth term of the sequence. So, as we can see in here, 3 added 5 is 8, added 5 is 13, added 5 is 18. So the sequence is basically adding 5. So because it's adding 5, we would start with 5n, because every time that n changes, it would add 5 by putting 5n. Now we need to do in here plus minus something that would start, basically would adjust, we would make adjustment to the sequence. But with this case, we should know that when n equals 1, this should be equal to 3, because our first number in sequence is 3. So when n equals 1, 5 times 1 would be 5. So what should I add in here to make that 3? So 5 minus 2 would make 3. So the final answer in here would be 5n minus 2. And as you can see, if you put 1 times 5 minus 2 is 3. If you put 2 times 5 is 10, 10 minus 2 is 8. So first of all, we put 5n because it just makes sure that it would just go up in every term 5, and then we adjust to the first basically the number in the sequence. Okay, we go to the next question here. A solution to the equation 3x squared plus x equals 67 lies between x equal 4 and x equal 5. Use the trial and improvement to solve this equation. Give your answer correct to 1 decimal place. Show all your working. So what we are saying in here is that just imagine that we have this xy, and then we also have a curve like this, which is a quadratic. And just as you can see, a quadratic could have two answers, because when we say y equals a function of x, and when we say answer means that if that is equal to 0, that basically means that y equals 0. Y equals 0 is the x-axis. So the roots of a function are basically where there's intersection with the x-axis. And now imagine that one of the answers is between 4 and 5. So if we put 4, our y would be a negative number. If we put 5 on this curve, the y would be positive number. So we need to move, put 4 and 5 and then put half. So if it is positive, we need to go down. If it is negative, we need to go up. So as we can see, we can basically use this, visualize what is happening as we do this. So because this needs a calculator, I'm going to put in here. Okay, this is okay. The one that I explained in the right hand side is for quadratic, but the same thing applies if we say rather than saying that basically this is for the case that if we had 3x squared plus x minus 67 equals 0. But the same thing applies if we have 3x squared plus x equals 67, which is what is this question. But this time we want to make sure that this value is 67, just close as possible to 67 rather than to 0. If we take the 67 to the left hand side, which is this, we would then make sure that it's close to 0. So the concept is the same. So I start with x equals 4 and find out what is 3x squared plus x. So x squared would be 16 times 3 is 48 plus 4 is 52. And if I look at 5, if I look x equals 5, I get 5 squared is 25 times 3 is 75 plus 5 is 80. As you can see, 67 is, so 67 is between 52 and 80. So we need to find a number between 4 and 5 which brings us close as possible to 67, correct to 1 decimal place. So the next try that I want to do is for 4.5, halfway between 4 and 5. So this would be, I'm going to do 4.5 to power of 2 and times 3 plus 4.5. So the answer is 65.25. So 65.25. So is this higher than 67 or lower than 67? So I'm just going to put 67 in here so that we can see it. So this is lower than 67. So it means that the answer that we are looking is above 4.5. Now, if I go above, because the 65.25 to 67 is not that far away, so I'm going to next try is 4.6, slightly going higher. So if I try 4.6, this would be basically 4.6 squared and times 3 plus 4.6. And this would be 68.08, which is higher than 67. So it basically means that we need to go lower. Lower than 4.6 and higher than 4.5, which I would select the midpoint, so it would be 4.55. So somewhere exactly in between. So this time, if I put 4.55 squared times 3 plus 4.55, the answer is 66.66. So I'm rounding this up a bit. So this is 66.66. And this is lower. So basically means that we need to go higher than this. Now, if we look at this, so far what we have done, we have found that our answer is less than 4.6, but based on the last line, it is higher than 4.55. So our x, right x, is basically exact x value is somewhere between 4.6 and 4.55. Now, if I look at my, again, the problem, it says give your answer correct to 1 decimal place. Any x between 4.55 and 4.6, if I round it up to 1 decimal place, the answer basically would be any point, would be 1 decimal place, would be 4.6. We know that, as I said, x is between 4.55 and 4.6. If is 4.56, 4.57, 4.58, whatever the answer is between these two, if I round it up to 1 decimal, because this last digit in here is larger than 5, it would just round up to 4.6. So this is the point that I would just stop in this point, because I have now got my answer to 1 decimal place, correct to 1 decimal place, and that is 4.6. Okay, if we go to the next question here, a shopkeeper ordered 1,200 Easter eggs at a cost price of £2.40 each. Before Easter, he sold some of them, making a profit of 15% on each egg. After Easter, he had 360 eggs left, and he sold them at a reduced price. What was the lowest price for each remaining egg to make sure he did not make any loss? So we bought 1,200 eggs, each for 2.40. So that basically means that if I time this in here, so 1,200 times 2.4, so we paid in total as a pound 2,880 pounds. So out of this, we made 15% profit on each egg for part of the eggs. But it says after Easter, he had 360 left. So before Easter, how many eggs was sold? So before Easter was 1,200 minus 360. And that would be basically 840 eggs sold before Easter. And for each one of these eggs, we made, the shopkeeper basically made 15% profit. So basically it sold the each egg 15% higher than buying price. So 15% higher than buying price, if you refer to one of the questions again on this exam paper, we can say that the selling price was 2.4 times 1.15, which is 15% added to 2.4. So if I do this in here, 2.4 times 1.15, it is 2.76. So we sold 840 eggs with a price of 2.76. So how much we gained? So we timed that to 2.76 in here. So the answer would be 2,318.4 pounds. So basically before Easter, we sold 840 eggs with 15% profit, and we got 2,318.4 pounds. After Easter, we have 360 eggs left. But for us to make no loss, we have to gain or have a difference of these two to be able to make no loss, because we have already paid 2,880. We have got a cash of about 2,318.4 for selling before Easter, so we need to make the rest of it. So that is 2,880 minus 2,318.4. So this would be 561.6. So from out of 360 eggs, we need to make 561.6 pounds to make no loss. So the question is, what was the lowest price for each remaining egg to make sure that there's no loss? So the price of each egg we have to sell is 360 egg left. So I'll just do it other way. 561.6 that we need to have divided by 360 eggs left. So if I divide that to 360, so the answer is £1.56. £1.56. So if we recap this question, we had 1,200 eggs bought with each £2.40. We sold 840 of them with £2.76. The 360 remaining, because it was after Easter, we sold it to 1.56. We should sell it to 1.56 to basically make no loss. So the answer in here is 1.56. Okay, so question number 18. During a science experiment, the growth of plant was recorded. The results are shown in the table below. So growth in centimeter is the first column, and the number of plants is the second column. Calculate an estimate of the mean growth of the plant. So estimate. So when we have estimate, because in here we have classes rather than specific values, our estimate point is when we say that, okay, we are going to consider a midpoint. So midpoint of 3 between 0 and 3 is 1.5. Between 3 and 6 is 4.5. Between 6 and 9 is 7.5. 9 and 12 is 10.5. And 12 and 13 is 12 and 15 is 13.5. So we are going to consider that if we are saying that number of plants that grow between 0 and 3 is 3, we are going to estimate that that 3 is related to the midpoint. So if I again continue in here, and similar to again to one of the questions that I did in this paper, so the total gross in here would be 3 times 1.5, which is 4.5, 5 times 4.5, which is 22.5, 4 times 7.5, which is 30, 7 times 10.5, which is 73.5, and 1 times 13.5, which is 13.5. So we add them together, so this would be our total gross. So this would be 27, 57, and then this side we have 87 and 57 would be 144. Now the total number of plants in this side is, adding together this section, 8 plus 4 plus 7 plus 1 is 20. So the mean growth would be 144 divided by 20, that would be 7.2, and that would be in centimeter. So that answer would be 7.2. Explain why your answer is only an estimate of the mean growth. And I did explain this in the very beginning. The reason is that we are assuming that when we say we had 3 plants in growth between 0 and 3, this is distributed evenly, so that we can assume that the midpoint, the 3 is approximately each one, the growth is 1.5. And basically we can say that within each class we have assumed that the distribution is uniform, so that we can safely say that the number of plants in that class, the growth rate is equivalent of the midpoint. Okay, we go to the next question. Expand bracket 3x minus y squared. One of the issues with students with this sort of problems is that they would just come and write like 9x squared minus y squared, which is wrong. We cannot expand the bracket like this. When we have a squared the whole bracket, we should not do this. The right method is that you need to write the brackets side by side. So 3x minus y squared means 3x minus y times 3x minus y. So then you start just expanding as a normal expansion as you do with other brackets. So 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 3x times minus y is minus 3xy. Minus y times 3x is again minus 3xy. Minus y times minus y is plus y squared. So the simplified answer would be 9x squared minus 6xy plus y squared. It's important that you write this bracket side by side. Factorizing in here. When we want to factorize, by priority, look at first common factor. 2, difference of 2 squares. And 3, quadratic. So look at in this order, because sometimes you factorize and still you can factorize. So you still need to look at this order. Basically, it is the most logical order that you can do factorizing. So when we look at x squared minus 25, is there a common factor in here? There isn't any common factor. Then we move to the next step, which is difference of 2 squares. So do we have 2 squares in here, 2 full squares? And the answer is yes, because we have x squared and 25 is 5 to the power of 2. So we have two full squares, which is this is difference of two squares. And the answer for this is x minus 5 times x plus 5. And this is coming from the fact that a minus b times a plus b equals a squared minus b squared. So if you time this in here, expand this in here, and basically simplify, you will see that this is the basically a mathematical identity. So x squared minus 5 squared equals x minus 5 times x plus 5. So the answer in here would be x minus 5 times x plus 5. So if you go to the next question, question number 20, Gillian sold her formal dress online for 130 pounds and 50 pence, 0.5. This was 1/8 more than the cost of the dress. What was the cost price? So just imagine with these cases, this is a inverse proportion, but how you can look at this in here says that this was, you need to read the question. I think first of all, read the question if you need even 2 times, 3 times. And that's very important that you can just repeat the question and understand exactly what's happening. This was 1/8 more than the cost of the dress. So just imagine that the cost of dress was A. So when we say 1/8 more, basically we are basically saying that 130.5 is A plus 1/8 of A, because this was 1/8 more than the cost. So this is the cost and this is 1/8 more. So that plus that makes up the amount that Gillian sold the dress. So you could basically in here you can look at this side. This would be if you add those together, this would be 1 plus 1 over 8 would be 9 over 8a. That is 130 pounds and 50 pence. So to find out A, we time both sides to 8. So every time both sides to 8 would be 8 times 130.50 equals 9a. We divide both sides to 9. So A would be equal to 8 times 130.50 divided by 9. So if I put this on a calculator, so 130.5 times 8 divided by 9, and the answer is 116. So the answer is 116, which is generally a good news. If with these cases, if you do something like this and in your calculator you find out, for example, your answer is say 115.567130, and basically some sort of long decimal, generally I would advise to have another look at your solution, because with these cases generally you should get a very rounded number as an answer. Question number 21. The frequency polygon below shows the heights of children in 10A. So the data below lists the heights in centimeter of children in 10B. So we have a data which is 10B, which is in here, and then we have that frequency polygon that shows the children in 10A. On the grid below, draw a frequency polygon to show the heights of the children in 10B using the same intervals as 10A. So we are going to draw a frequency polygon. So if you look at here, we start with basically, if you look at this in here, we have a point in here, a break in here, and another break in here, and another break in here, and another break in here. If we look at them, this is somewhere around 135, this is 145, and this is 155, and this is 165, and this is 175. So what does it show? You know, these breaks, they are in the middle of 130 and 140. What is basically showing that the class that we have used for drawing this for class 10A is basically, if I show the heights with h, it is h between 130 and 140, and then 140 and 150 and 150 and 160 and 160 and 170, and finally 170 and 180. So basically we have 5 different classes. So as we count these, we put the number in the middle of that class. So middle of 130 and 140 is 135, and then so on for between 140 and 150 and the rest. So if I come to this data in here, how many data do I have between 130 and 140? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I have 6 in here. Between 140 and 150, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, between 150 and 160, 14. And then I have 1, 2, 3 in here, and then I have just 1 at the end. So if I want to draw this in here, so 135 would be basically 6. So this would be this point. 145 would be 7, which is basically 1 slightly higher around here. And 155 is 14. So 155 is going up, and we are going to somewhere around 14 around here. So we going up around this point. And then 165, which is between 160 and 170, is 3. So 165 is 3, so which would be somewhere around in here and here. And then we have 1, which is in between 170 and 180. So 175 and 1 would be in here. So if I draw this result and connect these points together, that would be the frequency polygon for the data of the children in 10B. Now, the part B of the question, which is in the other side, it says compare the height of children in 10A with those in 10B. Sometimes with these comparisons, we can basically look at the mark in here, and based on that see how many comments we need to make generally, because sometimes you can have more than like 2, 3, 4 different things that you can basically specify. You can comment. In here we have the mark of 2. Generally it basically looks at in here we need to make 2 specific comments on 2 specific comparisons basically between these 2 data. So one of the comments that we can say is that data for generally we can say that the heights of children in 10A, which is this original data, this one in here, the heights of data at 10A generally are, we can say that are higher than the heights in 10B. So one of the things that we could, yes, we can say that the overall heights in 10A is higher than 10B. So something like that. So because we see that this section which represents the higher heights, we have this peak in the forward, which is, or we could say that, yes, we can say that the overall height is more for 10A. The second point we can, second comparison that we can make between this 10A and 10B, we can say that distribution of the heights in 10B is narrower than 10A. If you look at here, we have most of our data in most of students in 10B are concentrated in this section, but for 10A this is a wider area which covers a wider section, and that's why we have a peak which is higher in 10B. So we could basically say that distribution of heights for 10A, we can say for 10A is wider than 10B, or we can say 10B is narrower than 10A. Okay, if we go to the next question now. Question 22, a number is halved, then 5 is subtracted. The answer is 1/3 of the original number. Write an equation and solve it to find the original number. So with these sort of questions, you need to consider a variable. So we need to consider variable and just work with that variable. Just imagine that x that we are considered is x, and if we say that x is halved, the number is halved, and then 5 is subtracted, so -5, and then the answer is 1/3 of the original number. So the answer is 1/3 of x. So this is the equation that we find out. So a number is halved, -5 is then equals to 1/3 of original number. So to solve this equation, the best and easiest way is that we time everything in this equation to 6. 6 is a lowest common multiple between 2 and 3, basically to eliminate that fractions, to eliminate 2 and 3 in this equation. So if I time this to 6, I will get 3x minus time this to 6 minus 30 equals time this to 6 would be 2x. So if you use this technique, this is the most effective technique in solving this sort of equations, and it is important that we could learn to remove fractions so that we simplify the problem. So in here, I minus 2x from both sides would be x minus 30 equals 0. And I add 30, x would be equal to 30. So this is answer in here is 30. Equation is x over 2 minus 5 equals 1/3 of x. Okay. So again, you can check your answer. 30 is halved, which is 15. And then 5 is subtracted, minus 5 is 10, and 10 is 1/3 of original number, which is 30. Yes, 10 is 1/3 of 1/3 of 30. Is that right? Yes, that is right. So we can check our answer. Going to the next question here. Question 23. It says solve this, and this is a simultaneous equation, show your working. As you can see, this in this form is a bit confusing, and not confusing in a way, it is a deliberate way of putting things in not order, in an order that is not right. So we want to write this in a form that we can basically write the x's on x's and y's on y's and numbers on numbers. I think that's generally one of the easiest way to do if we want to use elimination. If we want to use substitution, that's different. So I would show you both sides in here. So if I use the elimination in here, the first equation, if I rearrange that, I can write x minus 5y equals 15, and 3x plus 8y equals minus 1. So I just write x's and y's and numbers in order. Now, if I time this to minus 3, I will have minus 3x plus 15y equals minus 45, and I write this as it is. Then I add these together, this minus 3x and 3x simplify, and what I have is 23y equals minus 46, so y equals minus 2. And then I can replace the minus 2 into one of these equations and find out x. So if I replace on the first one, it would be x minus 5y. Minus 5 times minus 2 is plus 10 equals 15. Do a minus 10, so this would be x equals 5. So the answer would be x equals 5 and y equals minus 2. The other way to do this, which is the second method, and maybe that is the intention by writing in this format, is that we can use substitution. If we look at here, we have x minus 15 equals 5y. And then we have 3x equals minus 8y minus 1. The substitution is basically you find x from the first equation, which is plus 15, so x would be equals to 5y plus 15. And then substitute that x into the second equation. So we will have 3x. Instead of 3x, I'm going to write 3 times 5y plus 15 equals minus 8y minus 1. By substitution, I have basically eliminated one of the variables, which is x. So I have now one equation and one unknown. I just need to expand this. So this will be 15y plus 45 equals minus 8y minus 1. I would minus 46 and plus 8y, so that would be 23y would be equal to 46, and y would be equal to so minus 46, and y would be equal to minus 2. And the rest is the same. We just replace minus 2 and find out x equals 5. So we could do either way to solve this simultaneous equation. Okay. Next question, it says solve x squared minus 5x minus 24 equals 0. If you look at here, we are solving a quadratic equation. So we can either use factorizing, we could use direct formula, and we could use a completing square if we want to. Generally, factorizing is the easiest one, but if we could factorize a quadratic equation into a whole numbers, if you could find whole numbers that we could factorize. Otherwise, I would suggest using the direct formula. So we start with factorizing just to see if we can factorize this. X squared minus 5x minus 24 equals, if we factorize this, we are looking at x and x. We are looking at two numbers that they time to become minus 24, and they add up to minus 5. And I'm looking at 3 and 8 at the moment because they're minus, they could be minus, and so if I look at minus 8 and plus 3, because they add up to minus 5, they time to minus 4, so it is factorized. We can factorize, so the first method is the simplest one. So this is equal to 0. In here, x minus 8 has to be equal to 0, which is x equals 8, or x plus 3 needs to be 0, which is x equals minus 3. So the answer in here could be 8 or minus 3. So that would be the solution for this one. So we go to the next question in here, and this is question 25. This is a circle with O as a center. We have a circle as O as a center. OA is 8.4, BC is 10.6, and angle AOC is 60 degrees. Show that radius of the circle is 4.2. In a way, we want to show that OC, basically OC equals 4.2. So if you look at this triangle OAC, if we separate this in here in a way that we know that this is 90 degrees, this is 60, and we know that this is 8.4, we can find out the value of OCA with using trigonometry. Because this OC is adjacent to 60 degrees, we can say that cos of 60 equals adjacent over hypotenuse equals OC over 8.4. Cos of 60 is half. So half equals OC over 8.4. So OC would be equal to half times 8.4, which is 4.2. So this would be the answer for the part A of the question. So show that the radius of the circle is 4.2. Now part B, hence calculate the size of angle OBC. So angle OBC is this angle here. This time we are going to look at the other side of that triangle, which is O and C and B, and we know that this is 4.2 and this is 10.6, and we want to find out that angle. To find out this angle, we already know that we have the opposite and we have the adjacent. So what we can make with opposite and adjacent, and that is tan. We can say that tan of that angle, which is, if we call it theta, equals 4.2 opposite over adjacent, which is 10.6. So the theta would be tan minus 1 of 4.2 over 10.6. So you need to use the calculator for this. So you would basically do a shift with a tan minus 1 of 4.2 divided by 10.6. And the answer is 21.61 degrees. So the answer would be 21.61 degrees. The important thing in here is that you definitely need to have a check that your calculator is on degrees, so it's not on radians, so your answer should be in degrees. And you need to be able to use a tan minus 1. So as you can see, this answer in here should be in degrees. So if you go to the next question, the mean of 4 numbers is x. Y is added to one of the numbers and Z is added to each of the other 3 numbers. Write an expression for the new mean. Okay, so we have in here the mean of 4 numbers is x. So we are going to say that x, if I say 4 numbers, if I just call it, if I show the 4 numbers with a plus b plus c plus d, all of the divided by 4, that is equal to x. So mean of 4 numbers. Now we are adding y to 1 and z to other 3. So what happens in here? So what we will have, then write down expression for the new mean. So the new mean would be y plus y plus b plus z, because we are adding z to each one of the other ones, c plus z plus d plus z. And this would be divided by 4. If we separate this in here, would be a plus b plus c plus d divided by 4 plus y plus 3z divided by 4. I'm just separating this, rearranging. This is the original mean, which was x. So x plus y plus 3z divided by 4. So the answer in here, the new mean will be x plus y plus 3z divided by 4. That would be the answer for the new mean. Okay, if we go to the next question, question 27. Examinations in chemistry, physics, and biology were taken by 120 students. Each examination was marked out of 100, and the cumulative frequency graphs below illustrate the results. So, which subject has the highest median? So the median is frequency, cumulative frequency graph. We go to the middle, which is 60. So this is, if I look at here, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 20. So we need to go to the middle. So I'm just going to count the whole of this grid. So this is 5 and 5 in here, and 5 and 5. So the middle is in here. So this would be the median. So this would be the median. So which one has highest? If we look at here, this coming down, this would be the highest value compared to this coming to here, or compared to this. So the answer for the first one is chemistry. So the answer for this one is chemistry. In which subject was the interquartile range the greatest? Interquartile range is, if I change the color and show the interquartile range in here, so we have another 5 in here. So this would be lower quartile, this would be higher quartile. So this would be the range, which is very small in the first one. This one is there, and again, this higher quartile and lower quartile, this is the range in here. And then we have here and here, and then we have the range in here. So which one is in which range is greatest? And that would be biology. So that is biology. Now I'm going to clear this so that I can just do the last question in here. So it says the pass mark was 50. What percentage of students did not pass physics? So pass mark is 50. So if you look at here, and if I connect this back to around here, so what I see somewhere around, so about just as an estimate, like the total number of grids in here are 20. So about 2.2 out of 20, the marks were less than 50. So if I just, the reason that I put 2.2, if I look at in here, is that the 50 mark, which is in here, is slightly higher than 2, slightly higher than 2. So 2.2 over 20, which is 20 is the total number of the grids in this side. So this would be 2.2 over 20 times, because this is a percentage, because to convert the percentage we time it to 100, so that would be 11%. So 11% is an approximate. Most possibly if you put 10% is also acceptable, or 12%, but as an approximate from the figure, we can say that this is about 11%. Okay, so that is basically the end of this paper. So I hope that this has been useful. So if you need, if you think that there are specific exams that it would be more useful for you, you can always contact us through the channel, and we will look at doing more video solutions of the GCSE exam. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos within next few months, just before the GCSE exams in May and June.